Welcome. My name is Lindsey McKay. I'm an attorney, and you have joined us on the McKay Moment, a new podcast where we will be addressing legal issues and questions. And today I will be running through a series of questions that other people have submitted. And the first question: who are you and what do you do? My name is Lindsey McKay, and I'm an attorney who practices law in the state of Texas, and I specialize in the area of personal injury law. And that is car wrecks, 18-wheeler wrecks, slip and falls. Anytime somebody is injured, I specialize in those types of cases. I enjoy those cases because, unlike other attorneys, for example, a criminal lawyer or a transactional lawyer, even a defense attorney or family law lawyer, those lawyers submit bills to their clients and they bill by the hour. But in my line of work, it's not unique to me, but all personal injury attorneys are able to help clients on a contingency relationship. And that means I help my clients through the case. I spend as much time as needed. And at the end, no matter what, I am handing my client a check and I'm not handing them a bill. So you as my client will never see a bill from me. You will never write a check to me. It's actually reversed. I will only be writing a check to you, and that makes for a lot of happy clients. And it's a very rewarding type of law. Otherwise, I don't think I would enjoy practicing law, frankly. I don't enjoy billing by the hour, and I like making people feel better at the end of the day, having had to engage in a legal matter rather than having regret. How has being a female lawyer affected you? Has it made it easier or harder? That is a very big question to answer. I think being a female in any profession definitely is challenging. I think it's getting to be obviously more common than it was in past generations. I am married and I have 5 children with our 6th child on the way. And multitasking as a female between the role of motherhood and an owner of a law firm can be challenging, but actually I think it makes me better in both arenas. One, it helps me really relate with my clients on how difficult it is to coordinate after a collision or a car wreck when you've been hurt. How do you add that into your daily schedule on top of everything else that you already have going on? Life is challenging and busy just day to day without any hiccups. And adding a car wreck adds a tremendous amount of stress, not just on you, the one in the car wreck, but on the family unit. And I can relate with that, and I can also help with my staff. We help clients coordinate the impossible, whether it's helping with childcare, helping with bills, trying to get you to the doctor, get all your medical care taken care of, providing rides. We do whatever it takes. And I think we are able to do that because we are a female firm primarily, and all of us are mothers, and all of us understand that it does take a village. And with our team, you become family, and we do whatever it takes to get you there. So I do think it helps me empathize with my clients better. I think there's a saying, if you want something done right, ask a busy mom. And what I mean by that is the busier I am, I think the more organized and productive I am. And I think it definitely gives me a lead in our field because we really go the extra mile to make sure we are maximizing every single case, and we are there for our clients in every single way. So we are smart enough to win, but small enough to care. So that's what I like to say. So what is one of your defining factors? Something unique about the way you do things and handle business. I would say we have many defining factors. Something that separates us from other law firms is we are very hands-on with the day-to-day with our clients from the very beginning of the case until the very end. And many times after the case is over, we do become the client's almost family attorney. And if they have other issues, other legal issues or questions, they always call us. If our office can't help, we always find somebody who can through the network of great attorneys that we work with in all other fields, whether it's medical malpractice, even business matters, even family law. Sometimes they will call back with the family law dispute, and we're able to connect them with some really good advocates. And what also separates us, I really am trying through the practice of law to empower our clients. I enjoy taking something that is very defeating, very stressful, and many times very painful, and that is after getting involved in a car wreck or an 18-wheeler. And I like to take a bad situation and take that opportunity to make it something that can improve someone's life. Not only do we help get the best health care possible to address all of the injuries, but we want to make it worth it for that person to have ever had to experience it. And that is very rewarding, and we take it very seriously. It is an honor for us to have anybody walk through our door and to trust us with their case, because to each client, their case is their life, and we recognize that. You're not just a number. We're not so big that you're just another client in a big pool of other clients. Every client has a unique case. They have a unique story. We try to learn what that story is so that not only we can empathize and help our clients, but we then can be your voice in telling your story as accurately and as powerfully as we can to the other side, to and reaching a settlement. What misconceptions may someone have about hiring a lawyer? I touched on this a few in some of the earlier questions. I think there are two primary misconceptions with a lawyer. One, I can't afford a lawyer, and lawyers are too expensive. And fortunately, in our line of work, personal injury, we take cases on contingency. That's not unique to me. That's everybody who practices personal injury law. So the commercials are true and accurate when they say, we don't get paid unless we win. That is absolutely true. Now, I'll tell you a little secret, and that is we are able to take that risk because it's not hard to be able to vet a case and know whether you're going to win. Fortunately for our firm, for example, we have collected on every single case we have accepted. So that means we have a 100% track record. How is that possible? Well, you only need I kind of think of a stool. You only need 3 legs of a stool in order to have a personal injury case that stands. And once those 3 legs are identified, then you know that you have a case that will win and you will collect. And we collect our fee from the settlement of the funds when there's a settlement or a verdict. And so if there was no settlement and there was no verdict, then that is true. You would not owe me. You would not pay me my expenses. You wouldn't owe me for my time. And if we do settle, or if we do win a jury verdict, I'm not going to hand you a bill. You're not going to write me a check. Instead, the insurance company, typically it's insurance, that will write a check, and we will get a percentage of that settlement check. That's also divided up between the lawyers, any medical bills or liens, and finally, and then the client fee. But touching on those three legs of the stools that you need, basically you need liability, which is the collision or the injury can't be your fault. It has to be the fault of another person or business. The second is you have to have an avenue of collectability. So if somebody doesn't have insurance and they don't have assets, then that's really not a case worth pursuing, even if it wasn't your fault, because there's no avenue of collectability. But on the other hand, if they do have insurance, then we know we will absolutely be able to collect, so long as you have the final leg of the stool, which is you have to be injured. You could be rear-ended in a collision with someone who has $100,000 of Allstate insurance, but if you don't have any injuries and you say, I'm not injured, then there is no case. They don't just pay you because you were in a wreck. They pay you based on, in this day and age, unfortunately, in a civil case, it's limited to civil damages, which are money damages, and with big data, they are able to use algorithms. And part of that algorithm that I'll get into later is how high your medical bills are. And that's a way for them to know, for the adjuster who's evaluating your case, how injured you are. So the higher the medical bills, many times they consider your injuries to be more acute, more serious, and worthy of a higher settlement. Every case we take, we are assessing and trying to see how we can maximize that case. And that's a little secret our clients learn when you become a client of McKay Law. So I'll give you some tips and secrets, but I can't tell you everything because there are the lawyers and the adjusters on the other side who may watch this, and I can't give away all our secrets, right? So let's see. Let's go on to the next question. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm moving on too quickly. The other misconception I think people have of lawyers is they can't trust lawyers. Lawyers are going to screw them. And lawyers will come at you with a lot of legal mumbo jumbo that is hard for others to understand, and it's always for the lawyer to get the upper hand. And on behalf of my legal profession, it saddens me that is the reputation that many lawyers have. And I make a pledge to my viewers, any listeners, and to anyone that I have the honor of representing, that we represent our clients with integrity, with honesty, and with respect. And I consider it a privilege to be able to be an advocate for anyone. And you can always hold attorneys accountable and responsible. And there is an oath that we have to, just like a doctor has an oath, we make a pledge and a promise when we sign up to practice law in our state and here in the state of Texas. And part of our engagement contract includes what that lawyer's creed states. And it is all the ways in which we are obliged to represent our clients. And you can read that at the end of our engagement contract and hold me accountable to make sure that we are acting within all the guidelines that are outlined and that we are treating you with integrity, respect, and honesty. And so I think it is a misconception, but unfortunately there are, always bad apples in any kind of profession. But I hope that if you were to come to my office, You would walk away feeling like you not only have a friend, but an advocate that will stand up for you in any situation. And what do they say? Everybody needs to know a lawyer. So I would love to be your lawyer. So the next question we will go on to: have you ever been in an accident? Yes, I have. I have not been in a serious collision, but I have been in several accidents wherein I have been injured. And I will speak for myself to say it does not take much property damage to cause an injury. And many people don't really understand this unless you've experienced it yourself. But I could show you, for example, we have many expert reports, and in those expert reports, it will show that anytime you are in a car accident, in a collision, the trauma of that collision accelerates the natural aging of your back and spine, the natural degenerative aging process by 10 years. And that is not with major totaling the car damage and airbags deploying. That is just any impact that you experience from a collision. It can happen from any kind of impact. And somebody rear-ended me with two of my children in the car, and you could not see the damage. I was driving my parents' Lexus, and you could not see the damage on the bumper. But I will tell you, I had a headache, my neck hurt, and because I am very aware of head injury symptoms, we're very mindful, and there is a long list of head injury symptoms that everyone should be aware of, because sometimes people think, well, I'm fine, I'm alive, the emergency room may have checked you out, but they discharged you with maybe some instructions to take some ibuprofen and letting you know that you would be okay. And I will tell you this: the emergency room knows a little bit about a lot of different things, but they don't know a whole lot about any one thing. So what that means is an emergency room doctor is not going to be trained to deal with the trauma of and the intricacies of back and neck and head injuries. However, a pain management doctor, an MD doctor who specializes in pain management, an orthopedic, a neurosurgeon, those doctors are qualified. And something else to note: if you go to the emergency room, they will be able to do x-rays and CT scans, but they will not be able to do an MRI. I have yet to see an emergency room take an MRI image of anyone that's been in a collision. And what is an MRI image? An MRI image is the best way to know what happened with your discs and your nerves in your back and your neck and your head, or anywhere, any other area of your body. Now, those images can be ordered by a specialist, an MD doctor, and I would never let anyone settle a case without at least having an MRI image, because I call it the science of millimeters. Many times people get into a collision and they don't have the pain level that they think warrants, and I guess warrant reporting an injury to the level of getting a settlement. However, when they get the MRI image and they see that they have a herniation of their disc, that's a 2 millimeter herniation, for example, the pain level may not be a 10 just yet, but if left untreated, that disc will migrate. It's progressive, and it will progress, and perhaps one day it will finally hit the nerve, and when it does, that will become so painful you can't walk, and perhaps you'll then go to the doctor, and the doctor will say, were you ever in a collision? You say, well, yes, but I wasn't that hurt. Well, actually, you were hurt, and you didn't get treatment, and it's just gotten worse. However, now you're left paying for it because you didn't pursue a claim when you could have and had the insurance pay for it. So these are some things I like to educate my clients about. And I think I could go on and on, but I'm trying to simplify it since we're just here on a podcast and I don't want to get boring. So, going back to what I was saying, something to note about a head injury, some symptoms, for example, are I sleep too much, not sleeping enough, loss of appetite, dizziness, throwing up, headaches, irritability, emotionality, highs and lows, mood swings. And many people, because you can't see in your brain and you can't see that big bruise in your brain, so you don't know that your brain is healing. And without getting a proper diagnosis and imaging, you may not even realize or recognize you have a head injury. And your loved ones or family members may just think you're in a bad mood or, you're not yourself. But all of those things many times indicate a head injury. The reason why a head injury can be serious, it's not just the fact that your brain is healing, and it can take up to a year sometimes or longer for that to heal. But also, if you were to hit your head again a second or third time, it can be even more serious and sometimes fatal. And so it's very important for you to know if you have a head injury, a doctor can tell you, so that then you can take necessary precautions to be more careful while you are healing. And I always say again, back and neck, you always want to make sure through an MRI image, whether or not you have a disc herniation, you could have an annular tear, you could have nerve, and I'll touch on that for a second. Sometimes it's called radiculopathy, radicular pain. Sometimes pain is not necessarily a shooting, stabbing pain in the neck, for example. It may be tingling sensations down the arm. It could be down both arms, one arm. It could radiate through the shoulders and go all the way to the tips of your hands. Your hands or arm could fall asleep. And that indicates a very serious nerve issue. Some people just think, oh, all of a sudden my hand's starting to fall asleep. Well, it may actually be a nerve issue that has to be diagnosed and treated through the care of a doctor. And that's not necessarily pain. Sometimes it is associated with pain. The same thing, you can have radiating pain or radiculopathy from the lower back down through your legs. And it causes those same sensations, or a lot of people know it as sciatic pain. What should you do if you get in an accident? I like to call it a collision instead of an accident, because it's not really an accident, is it? Somebody was negligent. Somebody wasn't doing what they were supposed to do and obeying the rules of the road. And I tell this to a lot of people who say, well, I'm not litigious. I don't sue people. I'm tough. I can move on from this car wreck, and I'll get my car fixed and I'll put myself back together, and I'm not going to do anything about it. What I would say about that is, first of all, if you have children and they did something wrong, would you not punish them? Are you going to let them get away and just say it's okay every single time? No, you're going to discipline your children. You're going to teach them. In the same way, every time we file a claim, and every time, if it takes a lawsuit, we file a lawsuit, we are making the roads safer for all of us. We are not only holding people accountable, but we are making them be more responsible. There are so many distracted drivers. Obviously, texting and driving is a very serious issue. And if all of us just say, oh, it's okay, and we move on, it will never end. And so insurance companies have to motivate their insureds to drive safely. And one way we do that is by pursuing a claim and making sure that we get compensated. So if you get into a collision what you should do. First of all, you call the police. Wherever you are, call the police. If they ask if you want the ambulance to come, I always say yes, because in many counties now, not all of them, but in selective counties in Texas, the police will not even write a report unless the ambulance arrives. And even in some cases, you have to leave in the ambulance for the police to write a police report. Like I said, that's not in every county, but to be safer than sorry, I always say call the police, let them investigate, let them write a report, because you will want to be able to rely on that. That is a very important piece of information that we are able to rely on, showing whose fault it was. And it also contains all the information of the other driver. Sometimes the other driver is driving a car that's not theirs with permission, or they are on a policy and there's other policies associated with it. All this information is contained in the police report, and it allows us an opportunity to investigate all the different avenues of insurance or avenues of collectability. And so you want to call the police. You want to limit your conversation, however, with the other driver if you can. You want to get photos. Take as many photos as you can. You want to take photos. Did your airbags deploy? Take a photo. Is your bumper damaged? Take all the property damage photos, not only of your vehicle, but also the other vehicle. If there are any visible injuries, you want to take a picture of all visible injuries. If you want to take video of anybody talking about what happened, take a video. If you're able to do that. Sometimes you're so injured you can't do any of these things. But if you are able to, you want to grab your phone and just document as much as you can. The other thing you want to do is, it seems like I'm leading or coaching, but I would say don't make statements in the height of an emotion. Or in other words, when your adrenaline is at 100 or 1,000%, that is not the time to make statements of, I'm not hurt, I'm fine, because you actually really don't know. You're not a doctor. You have adrenaline going. Now, you may be alive and you may be able to voice that, and that really may be what you mean. But just that statement will be used against you. It's kind of like in a criminal case where they say, don't, where they warn you, when they give you your Miranda rights. Anything you do or say can be and will be used against you. In the same way, think about that when you get into a collision. So the main thing is you want to call the police. You want to document as much as you can through video and photos. You don't want to make any major statements regarding injury. And I would probably limit the conversation besides what you're asked when the police are questioning you to anybody else about the collision. And then if there are any witnesses, if anybody's standing around helping, try to get their information. The police may not do that for you. And that may be someone we can call later and can be very helpful for our case. I can give you many, many examples where witnesses saved the day. The witnesses saved the case. The police report may have been written against our client, and then with our added investigation, a solid witness who actually was on the scene, saw the collision, and was very credible, we were able to get liability established, and we saved the case. And many times the police reports can be revised if that's the case. So witnesses are very important. You also want to make sure, if you can, go ahead and get the information of the other driver. You want to get their license, their driver's license, name, address, and their insurance information. Get that insurance card. Snap a quick photo before the police get there if you can. Sometimes when the police arrive, they will tell you they will get the information and they won't provide it to you. Now, what that means is we then have to wait for the police report. Sometimes police reports are available online in 5 days. Sometimes it takes 10 days. So if you already have that insurance information, we can start your case without having to wait for that police report. And what that means for you is we can send a letter to that insurance company, putting them on notice that we represent you and letting them know that, for example, you need a car, you need a rental car, or where your car is located and where they can go inspect it to see if it's going to be a total loss or if it can be fixed and how much that will be. So it starts the process much faster. So if you're able to obtain the insurance information, that's a very helpful. That's very helpful for your case. And then finally, of course, you want to call me. Yes, you want to call me. You want to call 903-INJURED, and we will tell you all your next best steps.
Where are you located and where do you work?
We are located, our primary office is in East Texas and Sulphur Springs, Texas. So our office is on 430 Church Street, Sulphur Springs, Texas, 75482. We have other offices in Dallas and Longview, and we're opening an office in Wichita Falls. But we help people. We have clients in Austin. We have clients in Houston, San Antonio, really all over the state of Texas. And if your collision happened, like we have an 18-wheeler case that happened in New Mexico, but our client's from Texas. So that's another case. We have clients that are actually from Oklahoma and on the border of Texas, and we're able to help them as well. So you do not have to come into the office. We can send everything to you through email, and we can always Zoom, we can FaceTime. I do provide my personal cell phone to my clients, and they can text me and reach me whenever they like. I always say text is better, but because I can always respond to a text message faster than a phone call. But I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am from Dallas, and I was born and raised in Dallas. I went to University of Colorado for college. I graduated early. I graduated in 3 years, and I got a scholarship to attend a law school in Chicago, Illinois. And I went to John Marshall Law School for 2 years, and I transferred back to Texas. My mother was ill, and I finished my final year between SMU and a school in Fort Worth, which is Texas A&M in Fort Worth, and then sat for the Texas bar. So I have done other types of law besides personal injury. I've been a litigator, doing just general civil litigation. I did work at the DA's office and the state's attorney's office in Chicago, also in Dallas. And I worked at the Federal Reserve Bank, using my economics background, economics and law. And I really found my passion when I found personal injury and this niche of law. I just absolutely love what I do. And I'm so thankful that I have a law firm where I can help people the way I want to help people. Let's go to the next question. Should someone still call you if they get in a collision and they believe they are the ones at fault? Absolutely. Call me and we will investigate. Is it worth calling even if your collision is minor? Absolutely, because minor is very subjective. A minor injury is as subjective as the pain scale at the emergency room. And what do I mean by that? When you go to the emergency room, they'll say, I was just in the emergency room with one of my children, and I could post a picture of the pain scale from 0 to 10. And they have different happy, smiley faces, crying faces, depending on how hurt you are. And you're supposed to pick a number. Well, I'll tell you what, if I were to ask my husband how much pain he's in, or what a 10, let's say, I would ask my husband, what do you think a 10 on the pain scale would be? He would say, oh, when you're at war and a missile takes your arm off, that's a 10. No, not for the purposes of personal injury. And I will talk to you about that as my client and explain how subjective pain is. And in the same way, you don't really know what a minor collision is. Many times, because the way bumpers are made and the way that cars are manufactured now, they are just safer, which is excellent. But a lot of times they don't show the damage. Or what we'll have to do is what's called a bumper pull. And a mechanic will do a bumper pull and look underneath the car to see if any of the metal was damaged. You may not see it with your eye, but guess what? If a collision can bend metal, what we say, it can definitely bend your back. So I'll use another analogy, okay? If somebody were to come into your house with a bat and they just bashed in your TV, bashed in your refrigerator, your window, and what are you going to do? Let's say this insurance adjuster comes in and says, okay, we'll give you a new TV. Are you going to take any TV? You're going to want the same size TV. You're going to want the same quality. And let's say he brings a brand new TV and it's the same manufacturer, it's the same quality, and he hangs it on your wall. Aren't you going to want to turn it on and make sure it works and make sure the volume works before he walks out the door? Yes, absolutely. So in the same way, you want to do that with your body after you've been in a collision. And there are ways to do that through imaging and going to the doctor and just reporting what you're experiencing. And then they can tell you what that means as far as any damage or trauma. Like I say, I call it the science of millimeters. It does not take much to move a disc to become a herniation. And that is serious because, like I said, it's progressive and it will only get worse unless it is diagnosed and treated. And the next thing is, are you just going to focus on the TV and let them get away with ruining your window and your refrigerator? No. So that addresses the other injuries. An insurance company has to pay you for each and every injury separately. Each one is assessed separately. And so they will pay you for the TV, which let's say is equivalent to a neck injury. They'll pay you for the refrigerator, which is equivalent to a head injury. And they'll have to also pay you for the window, which, may be a knee injury or a shoulder injury. So you want to make sure they're paying you for every single item, every single part of your body that was affected by the impact.
You should put that versus.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So, fun fact. An 18-wheeler that is fully loaded weighs 80,000 pounds. Now, a Boeing jet weighs 70,000 pounds. That is, so a fully loaded 18-wheeler weighs more than a Boeing jet, and it weighs more than an Army tank. An Army tank is 40,000 pounds. So it does not take much of an impact. If you're involved with an 18-wheeler collision, 100% every time you need to get checked out. It does not take much to cause an injury. Okay. Let's go to the next question. If I'm in a collision and both parties are injured, could we both be entitled to financial compensation? Or is it more or less one person wins? Okay. Well, that is a good question. There are different avenues of insurance coverage. And I will tell you this. Here's a question I'm going to answer that was not asked. And that is, what is the most frustrating case that you handle? Okay. The most frustrating case for me is when my client is hurt and there's not enough insurance. So what does that mean? That means there's not enough insurance to pay for all of the medical treatment that client needs. And that is very frustrating because that means, yes, I'm able to compensate them, I'm able to hand them a check, but they need more medical treatment and there just wasn't enough insurance coverage for them to get all that was needed. And many times they're walking away in pain and walking away trying to figure out how to address that pain for the rest of their lives. So one way to eliminate that is to make sure you have your own coverage. A lot of people say, "Oh, I have full coverage," or the insurance agent will tell them, "Oh, I got you full coverage. You're fully covered." What they didn't tell them is full coverage is a loaded word. It could mean just liability. That means, yeah, you have liability coverage. So if you cause a collision, you're covered. What it doesn't mean you have is the two most important parts of insurance that you need if you're going to be driving on the roads. That is underinsured motorist coverage and personal injury protection. Underinsured motorist coverage covers you if the other person does not have insurance. Let's say you get rear-ended and the person didn't have insurance, but you have your own insurance and you have what's called UIM. You will be able to seek treatment. Or let's say that the person that hit you only had a minimum policy. What is the minimum policy in Texas? Does anybody know? The minimum policy in Texas is $30,000. That is not very much. It's more than California. California, it's only $15,000. And in Oklahoma, it's $25,000. So it's better than other states. However, it's a lot of times not enough to help people with all their injuries. And if they have underinsured coverage, the minimum underinsured coverage in Texas is $30,000. If you had that in addition to a minimum policy from the defendant driver's policy, you would have $60,000. That's double. Now, you can always get more underinsured coverage. You could have 100,000, 200. It goes up from there. But underinsured coverage is very, very important. In fact, I have a client right now. She was involved in a very serious collision. She was a passenger, and the young individuals who totaled their car were driving a BMW, but guess what? They didn't have insurance. And she was left in the hospital for a very long time, and she has been suffering from a lot of injuries. Fortunately, she had $250,000 of her own insurance. So she is able to address some very serious injuries that she has been dealing with for a very long time. The other insurance is called personal injury protection. And this goes back to your question. Can both drivers be hurt? And then can they both seek some kind of compensation? Through personal injury protection, the answer would be yes. What is that? Personal injury protection is a form of insurance through your policy that will pay you whether it's your fault or not. You could literally be eating a hamburger, putting on your lipstick, and texting and rear into somebody. And if you have personal injury protection, you are going to get paid. All you have to do is mail in or send in your damages. Okay, and damages are lost wages. They are medical expenses if you go to the emergency room, and they will mail you a check for the amount of your damages up to your coverage. So the personal injury protection usually offered is $2,500. That's the minimum. It's not very much. But you can get, I've seen in rare cases, personal injury protection policies all the way up to $50,000, $100,000. And that would be so if it's your fault and you get into a very big collision and you have $100,000 of personal injury protection, you're covered. That's excellent coverage. So I hope that answers that question. I will address if you are a passenger in a car and the driver of your vehicle is at fault, do you have the ability to seek treatment? Will you get compensated? Absolutely. The passenger is always the most innocent party in any collision. So whether you are in the vehicle of the tortfeasor, meaning the person who caused the collision, or if you're a passenger in the car of the victims, the ones that were driving the car that was hit. In both cases, not only can you pursue a claim, but you as the passenger have the most avenues of insurance. So this is getting pretty detailed, but okay, if you're a passenger, you can pursue a claim against the driver's policy of the car you're riding in. You can pursue a claim against the other vehicle that hit you. And if you have your own policy, you can even go after your own policy if you have that underinsured coverage. So a passenger, no matter what, if you are a passenger and you are involved in a collision, whether it was the fault of the car you're riding in or not, call me and I will walk you through all the different avenues of insurance coverage that may be afforded to you or available to you. Okay. Let's go to the next question. What are the best things to do to ensure you win your case? Okay. So going back to that stool analogy where you have the three legs of the stool. There are certain things we can control and certain things we can't control after the collision happens. So let's talk about that. We discussed the first leg, which is liability. Okay? That is, if you're in a collision, it can't be your fault. You can't cause the collision for you to really need a lawyer. Okay? So you're not at fault. Well, after the collision happened, it's either your fault or you're not. So it's not like you can go back and we can't recreate the event. So that's set in stone. The next thing is insurance, collectability. We talked about that as the second leg of the stool. There's either insurance or there's not insurance. So you can't be involved in a collision and then call your insurance and say, oh, I need underinsured coverage to cover what just happened to me last week. You have to have the coverage at the time the collision happens, and so does the other driver. So the policy has to be in place at the time the collision occurs. So by the time you come to my office, if you've been in a car wreck, those two legs of the stool are already either there or they're not, okay? But the third leg of the stool is the only thing you have control over, and that is your injuries. Are you injured? So in order to know if you have a case that wins, we will do our job in investigating and making sure liability is clear, making sure the insurance is there or the avenue of collectability is there. But what you can do is go to the doctor for your injuries. Make sure you are reporting everything that is bothering you. Anything that you're experiencing that you did not experience the day before or the moment before the collision is something that must be reported. And even if it's a headache, you need to report the headache. And if a doctor orders something like physical therapy or an MRI image or an x-ray, the most important thing to do is follow the doctor's orders. The doctors are ordering these and asking you to take these steps for a reason. And if there wasn't a reason to do it, they would let you know. But if they're ordering it, you need to follow through with it. So that's one way you would lose your case. If a doctor tells you to do something and you say, no, I don't really want to do that. Can I get my check now? No, it does not work that way. So, because like I said, if you go back to big data, you go back to algorithms, you have most of the time, in a car wreck, you do not need to file a lawsuit. It's not litigious at all. And we are merely the avenue of helping you get taken care of, whether it's helping you get your property damage, helping you figure out your car, and I'll get into that shortly, helping you figure out what to do with your medical, how do you get medical treatment? What do you do if you have a job and suddenly now you have to fit in doctor's appointments? What do you do about your bills stacking up if you're so injured you can't hurt? All of these things we handle for you, okay? That is the advantage of hiring an attorney. And this allows you to pursue the case to get better. And like I said before, the adjuster at the end of the case, after you're done with all of your medical treatment, we will collect all your bills and records from all the places you've been, and we will send what is called a demand package. And many times we use the word Stowers demand. That is, we're going to ask for the policy limits. And I could have a whole podcast on Stowers, and I'll do that in the future. But for now, we send, to keep it simple, we send a demand package with all your medical bills and records, and we send it over to the adjuster for them to review, and then we start negotiating for settlement. And most of the time we can get your case settled, and there are in some cases where we have to file a lawsuit. But if we can settle your case, we will settle your case, and then that will be the end of the case. Let's see. So the best thing you can do to ensure you win your case is communication with your attorney and following doctor's orders. And I would also say, try to be careful. Don't get in trouble. Don't end up in jail. Don't get into another collision if you can avoid it. Don't try to go work out and get another injury. All those things will hurt your case. Is there any advice you give to someone who is afraid to call a lawyer and make a claim? I would say this: there is no risk. It costs you absolutely nothing. All of the consults are free. Every time you call our office and talk to me or any of my staff, it is absolutely free. So what do you have to lose? You are out of pocket nothing. We will make sure pretty much everything is taken care of. Also, when it comes to property, some lawyers do not like to deal with the property portion of a case. In fact, they will only deal with the injury portion. That's not the case at our office. We always help process a property damage claim if the client wants us to. There's no charge for that. It's just something we like to do because it helps the client. And there are little tips and tricks when it comes to property damage that most people don't know, and the adjuster certainly is not going to tell you. And I'll give you an example. So you get into a collision. Let's say your car has to get towed from the scene. Then it ends up in a tow yard, okay? You wait a couple days. Let's say you wait 5 days. You get the police report. Now you know the person who hit you. You know their insurance coverage, their insurance company. So now you're able to call and put them on notice and set up a claim. Well, what did you do for those 5 days without a car? You were waiting. And then it takes a while, even once you call the insurance company, for a property adjuster to get assigned, for them to then finish their investigation, to accept liability, to then send somebody out to look at the vehicle and assess it. What are you doing that whole time? Are you just assuming that a rental car, it just shows up at your house as soon as you make contact with them? No, it doesn't work that way. And a lot of times, they will drag their feet on getting you a rental car. And rental cars, you also, for some reason, they're now requiring you have a credit card. You can't have a debit card. You actually have to have a credit card to even get a rental car. So if they do give you a rental car, what do you do about those 5 to 10 days you are without any vehicle? They owe you for that. It is called loss of use. They need to pay you for that. Every day you are without a vehicle or a rental, they owe you. And that could just be money in your pocket. So if you can navigate getting rides, having family help you, and not getting the rental, then they need to be writing you a check. And so that's something that some people don't know. And these are questions that we answer if you hire us to help you with your case. Let's go to the next question. Have you noticed any major changes in the way lawyering is done? Has the business changed in a way that has affected you? Certainly. I would say the number one way it has changed, obviously, is COVID. So with COVID, what does that mean? Actually, I think it is terrific. Cases, in my opinion, are moving faster, not slower, much faster. When I first started practicing, we had all paper files. Everything was paper. And there was lots of mail, lots of mailing, and you always had to meet in person with clients to get them to sign contracts. And the cases took a very long time, even just to settle. That's not even filing a lawsuit. So in this day and age, what does it mean? We can sign you up over the phone by sending you an email and using a service called DocuSign, to where it signs your name, you click submit, automatically that gives us permission to get started on your case. And it also gives us permission to help you get medical treatment if we need to help you with that or whatever else. So it helps us get started faster. The other thing is we also can do Zoom mediations. We can do Zoom depositions, and that is really more in litigation cases. I find litigation is if you have to file a lawsuit. Like I said, most of the time you do not, but if you do, a lot of people complain, oh, it takes years, it takes forever. Well, sometimes it can. However, if you have a very diligent, efficient lawyer who doesn't like to waste time and likes to push the case along as efficiently and fast as possible, like I do, then you'll see it can go very quickly, or a lot quicker than it used to, because we can do Zoom depositions. A deposition is it's a formal line of questioning. It's kind of like if you were in court and you were testifying in front of a jury in court, only instead of a jury, it's under oath and you have a court reporter. And now we just all hop on the computer with a Zoom link. The court reporter's in her office, the attorneys are in their offices, and the client is in the comfort of their own home, and we're able to ask questions. It doesn't take half as much time, or it takes half as much time as it used to. Sometimes some attorneys are wanting to maintain the in-person deposition, but for our purpose, if we can opt for Zoom and the client prefers Zoom, we're good with that too. So I would say biggest changes is all of our files are now electronic. We can pretty much do everything electronic. And even at the end of the case, you can come by for a check. We can mail you a check, or we can even transfer the money to your account. So you could just wait for the transfer. That is how simple it can be. So let's go to the next question. What advice would you give to someone who wanted to become a personal injury lawyer? The advice I would give is work in a personal injury office. And it could be a small office or it could be a large volume office. But either way, you're going to get the most hands-on experience. When you go to law school does not teach you personal injury law per se, or how to own a law firm. Law school is going to teach you a way of thinking, a way of processing, a way of organizing an immense amount of information, and it also trains you in discipline, and it is certainly very challenging. Um, the material is not difficult. It can't be too difficult because it's the laws of the land, the laws of the people. It's something that all of us have to abide by and be able to follow and understand. So the concepts are not hard. It's just the amount of information that is given to you that you have to organize and process in a very short amount of time. And then it is the pressure, because your grade in most law schools, your grade is one test. It's not attendance, it's not tests throughout the year or throughout the semester. You just have one final exam, and that is your final grade. And some people can't handle the pressure. And the pace at which you are required to organize and assess the information. But if you want real hands-on experience and you want to know, would I be able to be a personal injury lawyer? Just go work at a personal injury office. There are always things that can be done from, I started off as a secretary, as a legal secretary, even while I was waiting for my bar results. I am so thankful I started in that position, because many of my colleagues who are excellent attorneys, they're just excellent attorneys. However, they cannot do the day-to-day that a legal secretary can do. I, on the other hand, I can do everything a legal secretary can do and also the legal work. So it gives me a lot more flexibility. And if anything were to happen to my staff, I can chime in and do what's needed. And so it definitely is something that is worth pursuing, is working at a law firm. Work-life balance is hard. I'm sorry, I'm going to the next question. Work-life balance is hard in any profession, but especially as a lawyer. How do you balance a great family life and work? Well, that is a very good question. And I have the image in my head. I have two images right now. One is of the bionic woman. And I say that as I laugh, because oftentimes it does feel like you are a Swiss Army knife. I mean, you are having to use every single different tool all the time to assess all these different issues and run all these different areas of your life. So there is a lot to manage, because you're managing clients, staff, your children, your family, your meals, carpools, and it is very challenging. But I would say that when you have more on your plate, in a way, I find for myself, I am more successful. And I really appreciate the challenge. And I do have a much simpler life. And that is pretty much my office and my clients and my children and my family life. And we also started a farm, and the farm has been a very nice outlet for stress. I would say another way of getting a balance is, I think the other image I had is the Psalm, I think it's this Psalm 91 woman. No, it's the Proverbs. I can't think of it. Anyway, it alludes in the Bible to what a hard-working woman looks like. And that is a woman who doesn't complain, who wakes up early, who does hard work. And I often think about what it takes. And I think about my clients, for example. My clients really give me a lot of perspective. And for example, I recently had a case where our client was the passenger in a vehicle that was struck by an 18-wheeler. And the 18-wheeler was driving at such a speed that he was transported to the emergency room, and within 2 days, he died. And he left his wife, who was his elementary school sweetheart, the only woman that he'd ever been with since he was about 14. Well, I guess they met when they were 10, officially started dating at 14. They got married when they were around 20, and they had 3 children together. And so he also left his 3 young boys. And she is a mother in her 30s who is now having to navigate life with 3 young children all by herself. And you think about that, and you think about, while in grief, her life goes on. You still have to take out the trash. They have animals they still have to feed. The children have to go to school. They still have baseball practice. And if she can do it alone while grieving, who am I to complain that I have too much on my plate? I have too much responsibility, or because these are the stories that grip you and remind you that you do have enough. You have enough energy to read another book to your children. You have enough to go the extra mile for your clients. And I think perspective helps you have the best kind of balance in life. And I am reminded every day when I have clients call with a new car wreck, new 18-wheeler wreck, a new accident or incident, I should say, that caused somebody to experience an injury, pain, and I am fortunate and honored to help them. And I am just reminded that it is not me in the hospital with my children. And you start realizing how fragile life is, and just to appreciate every moment that we are here and with your family, with those that you love, with your coworkers. And it gives you a very a deep appreciation for every day you get to wake up and work and help others. Let's see. We'll go to the next final question. Any advice to moms out there who are also trying to do what you do? Okay, I will relate to moms in general. And I will say this. First of all, I have a deep appreciation for single mothers, because I find it very difficult, even with a partner day to day, to manage a work-life balance. And to mothers, we always have the guilt. Are we doing enough? And can I do it better? And we are not perfect. And I am thankful I have a partner to rely on and to blame stuff on when things don't go well. No, I'm just kidding. But I think as a single moms have a very special place in my heart, because they are navigating even more alone. And so I would say, for all moms out there who are working or even staying at home with the children, whatever it is you do, the best advice I can give is go easy on yourself. And remember that you also need to take care of yourself. And so I hope that helps. I hope somebody listening, that might reach them today. But oftentimes we give and forget about taking care of ourselves. But when we take care of ourselves, we are so much better equipped to take care of those around us. And so with that, I just want to thank you all for joining us on the podcast, McKay Moment, and I hope to see you again.